I have conflicting feelings about this one. Hey, I'm Amy and welcome back. The new Damien Chazelle movie, First Man, about the moon landing is here, and it has been getting a lot of critical review, but I've also heard that a lot of people have said, critics have said it's really great, and then a lot of the average moviegoer has not liked it a whole lot, and I'm kind of in the middle. There are parts of it that I really loved and really enjoyed, but there are other parts that just, ugh. Okay, so before we really get into this, I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about my thoughts on this before going into it. I know I try to do that in every single one of these reviews. Before going into it, I am a big fan of Damien Chazelle. Well, at least La La Land. I haven't seen Whiplash yet. I know, kill me, but I am a fan of La La Land. I really enjoyed the movie, and I was excited to see this, to see what he did without something musical related. And Damien Chazelle still managed to make this music related in certain aspects, and those aspects bothered me just a tiny bit because they felt like they were just wedged in there a little bit. They were just, you know, we gotta put a little bit of music in this. We gotta make this a little bit musical. Ryan Gosling's gotta sing at some point, even though he doesn't have like the best voice, but whatever. I also really love movies about space. Apollo 13 is probably in like my top 50, top 25 favorite movies. So I was really excited to see this because it was sort of in the same genre as that movie. And I will say I couldn't help but compare the two almost the entire time. Not to a huge extent, but I did compare them quite often. So, the movie. In general, this movie definitely feels like a Damien Chazelle movie, both in the style of it. It is very stylized, the way La La Land was very stylized with its color. This one was very stylized in the 60s. It's set in the 60s, and you really get the feel, the style of it. It feels like that era. That's how I just kind of connected it to be very much a Damien Chazelle movie. It also felt very much like a Damien Chazelle, Justin Hurwitz movie with the score, because Justin Hurwitz also scored this, like he scored La La Land. And I'm pretty sure Whiplash, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I could probably look it up, but I'm too lazy to right now. But the score, there were parts in this where I was like, this feels like they took a sample from the score for La La Land and just redid it, even though the composer of both of these movies is the same person. But that's also like with John Williams, you can hear like Indiana Jones and Star Wars and some of his other works, Jaws, things like that. You can hear a composer in his work all the time. So I wasn't really surprised with that, but it definitely had the feeling of a previous Justin Hurwitz, Damien Chazelle collaboration. Some other things about this movie, I guess I can go into kind of the issues that I had with it, the comparisons I had to Apollo 13. While Apollo 13 does a lot of family kind of bonding and a little background on Tom Hanks's character before he goes on the Apollo 13 mission, you really feel that connection throughout. You feel, and it's not like they really kind of push it on you or shove it on there or draw it out for a little bit. It's very concise. You understand what is happening with the family and how it will affect Tom Hanks's character once he goes on the mission, and you see it kind of affecting the family and Tom Hanks's character throughout the entire movie. But in First Man, I feel like the parts with the family kind of dragged on a little bit. They made the movie very slow. They just bogged the movie down, personally, to me. I could not connect with the emotional stuff. Maybe it's just me that I don't like emotional movies. It really didn't connect with me very well. Plus, once we did get to the really intense space stuff that I really enjoyed, it was a lot of fun. A lot of the building up from the first Gemini mission, the introduction to Neil's character, the introduction to Ryan Gosling's character of Neil Armstrong, and him going through all of the steps with the Gemini mission leading up to his Apollo mission and the moon landing, you just really get this intensity in those moments, but throughout those moments, a lot of the time, this emotional family stuff doesn't quite pay off, except for this one tiny scene that happens on the moon landing, and it didn't feel like it was necessary for me to have all this family backstory. Yeah, it was nice to get a little bit more of his personality, but with Ryan Gosling's character and his acting, I didn't get any of that anyways, because to me, Ryan Gosling was playing the exact same character he plays in every single movie I've ever seen him in. Very stoic, very silent type, very... I don't know if he plays this very straight and logical guy in every single movie. He doesn't really, but in this one, he was just very straight, very logical, like just so narrow-minded on his mission that I don't feel like the real Neil Armstrong ever was. I feel like he might have been a little bit more lively, a little bit more family-oriented, friend-oriented, but Ryan Gosling's Neil Armstrong just felt very focused on this one thing, and you don't really get much else from him other than that. So it just felt a little stale to me, because it just felt like I'd seen him in everything else. And even in La La Land, I feel like Ryan Gosling did the same thing, but with the help of Emma Stone's character, he did feel a little bit more lively and a little bit more personable. And I love Claire Foy's performance in this. She was probably one of my favorite performances in this movie. She did such a great job. How Emma Stone's character in La La Land really opened up Ryan Gosling's character. In this, Claire Foy, even though her performance is amazing and probably at least Oscar nomination worthy, probably not winning. Gaga will probably win for A Star is Born, but Claire Foy's performance is worthy of a nomination. You feel the emotion from her, which is probably the only time I really ever felt the family emotional drama parts of this, but her emotion and just seriousness throughout this entire movie kind of amplified Ryan Gosling's character, like just amplified Neil Armstrong's seriousness, so it really just felt just too serious to me. But that's probably the only part of this that really brought me down. But all of the supporting astronaut cast was really great, especially in the missions. And this is a spoiler, even though this is a true story or inspired by true event story, a lot of the astronauts that Neil became friends with do end up passing away in missions or from other things. Well, actually, I think it's all from missions that they all pass away, and you really feel a lot more of the devastation and depression for Neil during those moments. You do feel it a little bit in the beginning when his daughter dies, which is another spoiler, but again, this is a based on true events story. There is things in this that happen in real life. So his daughter dying, you feel the emotion, but it also doesn't really carry a whole lot of weight throughout. It does, but at the same time it doesn't, because there's so many other things that are happening, so many other people that are dying, and it's just, if we could just have seen the emotional family stuff without the daughter dying, or just the scenes where his friends are dying, I don't know. A lot of this felt very slow to me, a lot of the emotional stuff, but I did, like I have said multiple times, I really enjoy the missions, the build up to the missions, and finally the moon landing, which is probably one of my absolute favorite parts. Once they start the Apollo mission to the moon, it's really cool, really fun. Well, it's not really fun, because another thing I have with this is they use shaky cam a lot, and a lot of the shaky cam is very close up on people's faces, and it's very disorienting. I was going to say I really wish I had saw this in IMAX, because that's the way the director intended it to be seen, but at the same time, because of all these really shaky cam scenes, I probably would not have been very comfortable seeing it in IMAX. It just would have been too big and too shaky to be seen like that. So I'm kind of glad I didn't end up seeing it that way. But the shaky cam stuff was a little bit too much for me. Going on to the missions, going on to the Apollo mission to the moon was really cool, because you get that Apollo 13 feel where something might go wrong, but in this, nothing really goes wrong. They do land safe on the moon, and then once they get out and land on the moon, they do this super cool perspective audio and audio shift, really. It's just so insanely cool that I feel like, why didn't they do this on any other time in the movie? They didn't do that space has no sound thing. For a lot of the times, there's like a spaceship rolling and the camera is like outside, but you hear this noise of the spaceship rolling. So it's like, you wouldn't hear that when you're outside the spaceship because there's no sound in space. It's a vacuum, but you would hear it when you're inside. I don't know. It's a little off that they did it at the beginning, or they didn't do it like at the first 3/4 of this movie and then they do it the last one. So that was a little weird to me, but at the same time, just when they step out of the rope or the capsule that lands, I don't know exactly what it's called. Once they step out of that, it's just this, and it's so insane. And that's when I would have wanted to see it in IMAX, just for that one part. And they have this perspective audio, and you really feel it. It's really cool. But I know this is a fairly short review. I feel like I pretty much talked about everything I could talk about from my notes. So let me know in the comments down below what you thought of First Man. Did you agree with critics and give it like an amazing score? I think it's like an 80% plus for Rotten Tomatoes for critics. Or are you like a lot of other audience members where it's like a 65-ish, 70%, I believe. So let me know. If I were to give this like a number score, it would be like a 3.5, 4 out of 5. But rewatchability score, I'm kind of on the fence. It's not a movie that I would probably pay to rewatch, so it would be like a Netflix score for me. But at the same time, if this would be out on Blu-ray when I go home to see my family at Christmas, this would probably be a movie that I would say, hey, let's rent this movie and watch it because I think you would really enjoy it. I wish there was like I wish I had made like a middle one for that, but I don't think I'd necessarily give it a Netflix. I'd probably give it a Redbox. I would probably pay money to go rent this and see this again. Not necessarily with myself, by myself, because my TV is not big enough to watch this. It's very, very small. As you can probably tell, it's right above me. But I would definitely rent this with my family and watch it on my parents' TV because it's super cool, super big TV that it would look really nice on. So final rewatch score is Redbox. But let me know. I would love to know your thoughts on this movie in the comments down below because, as always, I love hearing your thoughts. And I love sharing all of our thoughts together. I'm a little loopy right now. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really truly do appreciate every single one of you. Let me know who you are in the comments down below and let's be friends. If you enjoyed this, leave a like and subscribe if you're new because I love talking all things movies, TV shows, filmmaking, film history, all that fun stuff. And I'll see you next time. Bye!